At some point in a man's life, if he's been paying attention, he arrives at a moment of total honesty. Not the kind of honesty where you admit you have some things to work on. The kind of honesty where you look at the full picture of your life and you say, "This is not who I was supposed to be. This is not the man I intended to become. And I don't know how to get back to him." If you're at that moment, this video is for you, because rebuilding a man is not about motivation. It's not about a morning routine or a productivity system or a new set of habits. Rebuilding a man is about going back to the foundation, the identity, the purpose, the faith, the brotherhood, and reconstructing everything from the ground up. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. This is not about motivation. This is about reconstruction. Here is the first thing most men get wrong about rebuilding themselves. They try to renovate instead of reconstruct. They try to add new habits on top of the old foundation. They try to build discipline on top of an identity that doesn't believe it deserves success. They try to build healthy relationships on top of wounds they've never addressed. They try to build purpose on top of a life that was never aligned with who they actually are. And guess what? It doesn't work. Because you cannot build something lasting on a broken foundation. No matter how good the materials are, if what's underneath is compromised, everything you build on top of it will eventually crack. Real rebuilding requires demolition first. It requires the courage to look at what is broken, what is misaligned, what has been built on the wrong foundation, and tear it down. Not destroy your life, not blow everything up recklessly, but be willing to let go of the version of yourself that was built on wounds, on fear, on other people's expectations, on survival, and create the space for something real to be built in its place. This is the part most men skip, because demolition is uncomfortable. It means admitting that the life you've been living, the habits, the relationships, the beliefs about yourself, some of it has to go. And letting go of even a broken thing is hard when it's all you've known. But here is what I need you to understand. The demolition is not the destruction of you. It is the clearing of the ground so the real you, the man God designed, finally has space to stand. Here is the first thing most men get wrong about rebuilding themselves. They try to renovate instead of reconstruct. They try to add new habits on top of the old foundation. They try to build discipline on top of an identity that doesn't believe it deserves success. They try to build healthy relationships on top of wounds they've never addressed. They try to build purpose on top of a life that was never aligned with who they actually are. And it doesn't work, because you cannot build something lasting on a broken foundation. No matter how good the materials are, if what's underneath is compromised, everything you build on top of it will eventually crack. Real rebuilding requires demolition first. It requires the courage to look at what is broken, what is misaligned, what has been built on the wrong foundation, and tear it down. Not destroy your life, not blow everything up recklessly, but be willing to let go of the version of yourself that was built on wounds, on fear, on other people's expectations, on survival, and create the space for something real to be built in its place. This is the part most men skip, because demolition is uncomfortable. It means admitting that the life you've been living, the habits, the relationships, the beliefs about yourself, some of it has to go. And letting go of even a broken thing is hard when it's all you've known. But here is what I need you to understand. The demolition is not the destruction of you. It is the clearing of the ground so the real you, the man God designed, and finally has space to stand. The 5 pillars of rebuilding a man. When you rebuild a man, and I mean really rebuild him, not just improve him on the surface, there are 5 pillars that have to be reconstructed. Not one at a time, together, because they hold each other up. The first pillar is identity. Before you can build anything else, you have to know who you are. Not who the world made you, not who your wounds shaped you into, not who your failures defined you as, who God designed you to be. This requires a level of introspection that most men have never done. It means asking questions that feel uncomfortable. What do I actually believe about myself when nobody is watching? What do I stand for? What kind of man am I becoming? What do I want my life to say about me when it's over? Most men have never answered those questions because they've been too busy surviving to stop and ask them, but identity is the foundation of everything. Every decision you make, every relationship you choose, every opportunity you pursue or reject, all of it flows from what you believe about who you are. Scripture says in Psalm
114, I
am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. God didn't make you broken. He didn't make you inadequate. He didn't make you less than. Whatever you've been told about yourself, whatever wounds have convinced you that you are not enough, that is not the truth of who you are. The rebuilding of your identity starts with accepting the truth of who God says you are instead of the lie of what your wounds have told you. The second pillar is purpose. A man without purpose is a man without direction. And a man without direction will drift into addiction, into the wrong relationships, into comfortable mediocrity, because the human brain needs a target. Without one, it finds destruction instead. Finding your purpose is not a mystical experience that happens to you. It is something you pursue. It is something you build toward through trial and through paying attention to what comes alive in you. What makes you angry about the world? What problem do you feel called to solve? What would you build if failure wasn't a factor? Your purpose doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to change the world. It just has to be real. It just has to be yours. Because a man moving toward a real purpose, even a small one, is a man whose life has meaning. And meaning is what fills the void that nothing else can fill. The third pillar is faith. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the deep, non-negotiable acknowledgement that you are not the author of your own story. That there is a God who designed you, who knows you, who has a plan for you. And that walking in alignment with that plan is the only path to the life you were created for. A man rebuilding himself without faith is a man trying to carry the full weight of his transformation alone. And that weight will crush him eventually, because we were not built to carry it alone. We were built in relationship with God. And the man who rebuilds himself in that relationship, who prays honestly, who trusts the process even when it's painful, who walks in faith even when the evidence isn't there yet, that man has access to a strength that no discipline system or morning routine can manufacture. The book of Enoch speaks of men who were given divine purpose and walked away from it, who chose their own path over the one they were called to, and the emptiness and destruction that followed. The pattern is ancient, and the restoration always began the same way, with a man turning back toward God and saying, I cannot do this alone. I was never meant to. The fourth pillar is discipline. Now we can talk about discipline. Not before, because discipline built on a broken identity is just punishment. Discipline built on someone else's definition of success is just performance. But discipline built on a clear identity, a real purpose, and a genuine faith, that is power. Real discipline is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters consistently. It is about honoring the man you decided to become even when you don't feel like it. Even when nobody is watching. Even when the results aren't visible yet. And it starts small. Not with a complete life overhaul. With one decision, one habit, one area of your life where you decide today that you are going to show up differently than you did yesterday. And then you stack that, day after day, week after week, until the discipline becomes identity. Until the man you were trying to become is just the man you are. The fifth pillar is brotherhood. No man rebuilds himself alone. I want to say that as clearly as I possibly can. The idea that a man can white-knuckle his way to transformation in isolation, that is one of the most dangerous lies in the self-improvement space. You need men around you who are doing the work. Men who will call you out when you start sliding back into old patterns. Men who will stand with you when the rebuilding gets hard, and it will get hard. Men who have been where you are and can show you that the other side is real. The book of Enoch speaks of men walking together in alignment, accountable to each other, to truth, to their calling. That principle existed long before the internet. Told men that independence was strength. Real strength is knowing when you need your brothers. And real brotherhood is showing up for them the way you need them to show up for you. Find your tribe, build your circle, protect it. Because the quality of the men around you will determine the ceiling of the man you become. The daily practice of rebuilding. Now let me make this practical. Because pillars are concepts, and concepts without practice are just inspiration. Here is what the daily practice of rebuilding actually looks like. Every morning, before the phone, before the noise, before the world gets its hands on your attention, you spend time with God, not a long time necessarily, but intentional time, quiet time, time where you acknowledge who you are, what you're building, and whose strength you're building it with. This is not optional. This is the foundation of the day. Every day you move your body hard, not for aesthetics, for identity. Every time you push through physical resistance, you are telling your brain that you are a man who does hard things, and that message, repeated daily, rebuilds the belief about yourself that the wounds destroyed. Every day you work on your purpose, even for 30 minutes, even when it feels like it's not moving fast enough. Consistency over time is what builds something real. The men who build empires don't do it in a day. They do it in 10,000 ordinary days where they showed up when they didn't feel like it. Every week you invest in your brotherhood, a real conversation, a real check-in, not a text message. A real connection with a real man who knows the real you. Because isolation is where old patterns come back, and community is where new ones get reinforced. And every day you protect your mind. You are selective about what you consume, the content you watch, the conversations you have, the thoughts you allow to stay. A man rebuilding himself cannot afford to pour poison into the same mind. He's trying to reconstruct. What goes in shapes what comes out. Guard the input. What the rebuilt man looks like. I want to paint you a picture of what you're building toward, because vision matters. A man needs to be able to see where he's going, or the hard days will convince him it's not worth it. The rebuilt man is not perfect. He still makes mistakes. He still has hard days. He still carries some of the scars from what he's been through. But the scars are different now. They're not wounds anymore. They're evidence. Evidence that he went through something, that he survived it, that he learned from it, and that he used it to build something stronger. The rebuilt man knows who he is, not in an arrogant way, in a grounded way. He doesn't need the validation of people around him to feel secure. He doesn't need a woman to define him. He doesn't need external success to believe he has worth. He knows who he is because he did the work to find out. The rebuilt man has a mission. He wakes up every morning with a reason, a direction, something he's building that is bigger than himself. And that mission gives meaning to every sacrifice, every discipline, every hard day. The rebuilt man has brothers, real ones, men who know him and challenge him and stand with him. He is not isolated. He is not performing for an audience. He is genuinely known by the men closest to him. And the rebuilt man walks with God, not perfectly, not without doubt or struggle, but consistently, with humility, with the acknowledgement that his strength is not his own, and that the crown he is building toward is not one he earns through performance, but one he receives through faithfulness. That man is available to you. He is not some distant fantasy. He is the version of you that has been buried under the wounds and the patterns and the emptiness that we have been talking about for the past several weeks. Rebuilding yourself from the ground up is the hardest thing a man can do. It requires more courage than any physical challenge, more commitment than any career goal, more faith than most men have ever had to exercise. But it is also the most important thing a man can do, not just for himself, for every person whose life will be shaped by the man he becomes. His sons, his daughters, his partner, his community, his legacy. You did not come this far in this series to stay the same. You came here because something in you knows that the life you've been living is not the life you were designed for. And that knowing, that restlessness, that hunger, that quiet voice that says there is more, that is God calling you forward. Answer the call. Start today, not tomorrow. Not when the circumstances are better, not when you feel ready. Today, walk with God while you work for the crown. When he crowns you king, tell the world of the truth you found. That's king-level mindset. Kings don't beg. Kings don't bow. Kings build.